Alex Hormozi just broke YouTube. In all honesty, he's probably Mr. Beast's only rival in terms of making money on YouTube, and this is going to be his entire YouTube strategy broken down for you. Now, to understand who Alex Hormozi is, he is an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, owner of acquisition.com, and massive investor in school, potentially owner in school, formerly founded Gym Launch. You know the story. I don't need to break down the story, but what you don't know is his YouTube strategy and why it's pretty genius. So his YouTube strategy at one point was, let's just make super trendy shit and get a ton of views, right? And the reason for that is, hey, listen, if I have more views, right? More views, you would think more views is equivalent to more money, right? That would make a lot of sense. Now, here's the issue with that. More views actually does not equal more money. And the reason why is that if you're getting views from the wrong audience, the guys who are not going to be able to, let's say, afford to get acquired by acquisition.com and their strict requirements, doesn't make sense to get those views. You don't want those views. So essentially what he was doing is he was getting the wrong views. And how to fix that is audience segmentation. So I've talked about this extensively about how audience segmentation might be able to kill your channel, or it probably actually is killing your channel. In this case, audience segmentation can kill your channel in terms of views, but make you more money because you can niche down on your audience. Now, Alex talks about how he focused on RPM as a key metric to niche down, and he ran a test, and essentially the test was like, he did a bunch of these different changes and see what changes stuck, and eventually all those changes stuck. But what made the most amount of sense from this perspective is the reason why he niched down and focused on RPM is he figured that if these viewers are more valuable to YouTube, they're more valuable to me because they likely have the money needed to work with me on some level, potentially. That's the idea, right? And in actuality, it probably does check out to that, right? Where he's getting this as deal flow. So if I go to his latest videos are not getting as nearly many views as his previous videos. Now, occasionally, what he'll do is he'll do a top of the funnel video just to reprime some stuff and get some new viewers in occasionally, or to retap a cold audience that has, kind of been dormant on his channel, which is fine. And occasionally he has just a banger video that is a very niche video that reaches a wide audience because it's, pretty applicable to more people. But yeah, I thought this was really interesting. It's a 1 million view YouTube strategy. And it's a $1 billion YouTube strategy as well, where by focusing on the most valuable audience, which might not be the biggest audience, you will make way more money in the short term. It's not a crazy strategy and not like, oh, he's doing this, he's doing these little tactics here, right? He has some other interesting tactics where he has this path, proof, promise framework where he uses it in his educational content. He did a kind of an aggregate study of over like his 30 best performing videos. And of the 30 best performing videos, the thing that they all had in common was the path, proof, promise framework and hook work, which is actually pretty good. Now, something else that you should be able to do and take away from this as well, don't niche down your audience. It probably doesn't make sense. If you want to be a YouTuber, you probably want to get as many views as possible. If you want to make money with YouTube, you might want to consider niching down your audience to a specific group of people who you can sell a product or service to, or just make AdSense revenue from a higher RPM audience. Now, don't go start YouTube with the hopes of making money. That's not the best way to go about doing it. You can do it, but you want to use it as organic advertising first, and then use it as a funnel to whatever you're selling, or just to convert views. But yeah, another thing that he talked about and that you can actually take away is using the aggregate study. So what he did is he just started off with like whatever, and then he would do like what he said, which I don't know to be certain if he's done this multiple times, but he did like a 90-day test on certain things, and he figured out like, okay, these certain things work and these things don't. You should do the same thing. Obviously, he has a team. He has some of the best team in the world in terms of the guys behind the channel, which I know some of them, in terms of thumbnails as well. Again, some of the best, literally some of the best in the world. So you're not gonna be able to have the same kind of efficacy in terms of, let's say, output, or efficacy in terms of quality, but you can actually mimic it in terms of like, okay, I can run tests on things and I can then break down every single component of these things to figure out what's working and what's not. And if they all have something in common, you can keep that and move that forward, which is something that I've done for my channels forever. He talks about this for business as well, which is actually a pretty good idea. So yeah, it's just all these things that kind of work out. And essentially what he did was he just niched down his audience into the audience that makes the most amount of sense. People that want to watch this type of content are probably running businesses in a passive education sense. They might be on YouTube. They might see Alex's content, they know who Alex is, and they know that this content can provide value to them in a very specific way, right? How the top 1% make the money doesn't make a lot of sense, but 13 years of no BS business advice in 79 minutes, that's actually really, really good. It's also a longer video, which is why that one's an outlier. Another one that worked really, really well, which is building a brand, but it's on easy mode instead, makes a lot of sense to me because I'm trying to build a fucking brand. So I'm just like, oh, I'm just gonna go copy him. And I've copied him in the past. I've just copied everything he tweeted out, everything he said on YouTube 2 or 3 years ago. I had an agency that I took from $0 all the way to $30,000 in revenue, not net profit. I made like $8,000 a month, which was cool. But I took it to $30,000 in revenue just copying his framework. So I have an intrinsic kind of trust in Alex. So I'm like, I'm just gonna go copy his shit, and it tends to work out. So I just thought I'd break down some of his strategy, which was literally just niching down, which sounds like, oh, it's a really boring strategy. But yeah, this video is great. This is probably one of his best videos, which is why he only posted. Okay, it was 30 days, not a 90-day test, but he posted content for 30 days. which I don't actually necessarily think he made more views than normal. I think that might be a little bit of a clickbait thumbnail. But he got higher quality views because he definitely didn't get more views than normal. He was getting way more views talking about his personal life because people were more interested in the like kind of ethos of or the mythos rather of Alex Hormozi than the technical business advice, which was I thought more interesting. So yeah, that is kind of an interesting thing. He just niched down. Literally was just like big views or small views. And if the, let's say value is 1 to 10, right? The value is 1 to 10. The big views value was like, let's say probably a 4, where the small views value is probably an 8. So it's like, I'm getting probably, let's just say 50% of the views here in terms of conversion, but I'm getting 2x or more in terms of value. I think I'd rather want this smaller audience. Another person who's done this actually really successfully and really well, which again, it's not crazy. I'm not like reinventing the wheel here. I'm just showing you what people have done and why it works and why you are focused on the wrong things potentially if you're a business focused YouTuber. Is if I do film booth, Ed is a great guy. I've worked with him in the past on some of the YouTube stuff, and it's really interesting. He's super smart, and he's actually the first guy who brought this up to me about Alex Hormozi's strategy because I was always like, views equal money. It's actually not true. Qualified views equal money. And that's why he quit Film Booth, a channel with 375,000 subscribers. At one point was making him decent money. That's not what he wanted to do. So he started Creator Booth, which was a focus on business owners, which is what he wanted to focus on anyway. So it's making less views, but it's been well documented on podcasts and how much he's making from this channel. I'm not going to reveal it because I don't think he wants me to, but you can probably find it out there. Some really good stuff. So yeah, he just focused on a much more niche audience, an audience that he wanted to work with and an audience that was more valuable. Again, looking at RPM as a potential key metric and indicator in terms of value of audience. And it's done incredibly well. Now he runs a very successful agency coaching business owners how to become YouTubers and use YouTube as a way to make money on YouTube, which is all really super meta. So hopefully I'm going to be teaching you with this video what you should maybe focus on and looking at some of the biggest guys in the space. I know it's not like overly complex. It's not about like retention editing or anything like this. It's just straight up about giving raw, straight up value, like incredible, raw, straight up value to an audience that will actually be able to use that. And then because of that, you build reciprocity in them, you build value in them, and eventually maybe they can use the stuff that you gave them to scale to a point that they can work with you or be like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. This is solving a problem I have in my business. I want to hire you to solve it for you. And if you want to get your problem solved on YouTube, that's what I do. I solve problems on YouTube. If you want to work with me, reach out to me at Vexen_ on Twitter. If you are already on Twitter, hey, shoot me a DM if you think you're going to be a good fit. I work with basically creators mostly over 100,000 subscribers or more. That's my target demo. And if you want to make money with YouTube, I can also help you do that as well. I've worked with entrepreneurs in the past and help them scale their money. And also, hey, I can build out a similar strategy to Alex Hormozi, I hope. That's the goal. So if I work, maybe I can get you some similar results. You know, maybe not all the time, but possibly. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting. This Alex Hormozi strategy, why he, sacrificed most of his views to get more money, which sounds counterintuitive. I'm getting less views when I'm making more money, but in reality, it actually does make a lot of sense if you understand what's going on the back end and human psychology, as well as your audience and your ideal viewer avatar, which he talks about. A really interesting story, how he was talking to one of his friends, and one of his friends was like, I don't watch your videos anymore. I just didn't think I was like the right viewer. And Alex was like, wait, hold on. You are the right viewer. You're the exact guy I want. Why don't you watch them? He's like, I don't watch this, and this because of this and this and this. And Alex was like, okay, well, if that's why, then I want to focus on content that you want to watch and people like you want to watch because you're my ideal viewer avatar. So again, I think that's really interesting. Kind of talks more about viewer avatars, which I talked about in a previous video somewhere. So you can find it if you go through the content catalog. I should probably label things a little bit better. I found it really interesting as a YouTube nerd, understanding like how he's doing these things and how like Mr. Beast is doing different things and how like Ed from Film Booth is actually doing a very similar thing to Alex Hormozi right now. It's working out quite well for him. So it actually seems like, funny enough, the riches are in the niches, or whatever is the kind of quote. And it actually turning out to be true by niching down and segmenting his audience into a very segmented portion of that audience. He's actually making more money. So I thought this was interesting. Let me know if it helped you in any way, shape, or form, and you can maybe utilize similar tactics to scale your channels up as well as your revenue. It's been Vexen, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.